think lastly on our list here, after this, is the announcement that Greta Gerwig has started like a early pre-production on the Chronicles of Narnia movie she's going to be working on for Netflix.
Yeah. So she's going to be doing 2, I believe. So it's 2 movies. I think it's got to be that she starts. I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like it's got to be that she starts with The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
I mean, how would you not start it with that?
But I will say that if you wanted to, what comes out before it didn't come out publishing wise before.
Right. But it takes place before that. Right.
But it takes place before is a book called The Magician's Nephew.
Yeah, and I have heard of that.
When I had this big compilation book of all of the is it C.S. Lewis, right?
I think so.
All the Chronicle of Narnia books were compiled into this one big compendium that I got as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started reading that one. Do I understand what was happening? No, I don't know what was happening, but it was something to do with being a nephew and magic. And and I would like to revisit it, but you could go there and then you could
I think that could turn people off though, in a sense. But
sure, potentially.
I think people would want to start with like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and I think that's a pretty like magical, great first spot in the story. Right.
So like most likely she will. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Sure.
I have a couple thoughts. I love The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I remember even watching like the Prince Caspian kind of stuff, like the old Narnia movies that came out. Like, I forget when they came out, but I remember watching those and liking those even. So like I grew up with this stuff. And I think obviously I love Greta Gerwig. I love Lady Bird. I love Barbie. I think she's fantastic. I was thinking about it and I feel like she has the same trajectory that like a Christopher Nolan had, where she started off making these smaller movies. So her Memento is kind of like Lady Bird. And then she does a studio movie, something like how Christopher Nolan had to make Insomniac, and a remake of that for Warner Brothers. And then she makes Pretty Women, or Little Women, sorry, not Pretty Women. And then they're like, okay, well, how about, what do you do with this big property called Batman? And then she does Barbie. And now this is the time where I would be like, okay, well, maybe she goes and does
maybe start writing your own original stories. Right.
But she's going to do Narnia. But, granted, I heard people mentioning like this will be like faithful, but it's a great new take on it. And I expect like nothing less from what she did after Barbie.
Sure.
So I don't know. I'm excited about it. I think it's been, how long has it been since that first movie, the 2000s movie came out?
It's early. It was late 2000s, I think.
Was it? So late?
It's been, I think it's at least 15 years. I'm pretty sure.
I'm not sure, but 2005.
Wow.
So it's been almost 20 years.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I think for me, I actually watched these movies again. I think it was either last year or 2022. Might have been 2022. And I had such a good time watching them. I thought they held up very well, in a sense. Like I think if you're looking at like the Chronicles of Narnia as like this really great fantasy epic, I'm not sure it's necessarily that. I think it's more of like a growing up, like
coming of age
tale, right? And there's a lot of like heavy Christian themes in these movies and books, and I feel like, it's pretty obvious to me that like Narnia is kind of like they're, I don't know if you want to call it heaven per se, but like as like in the property or the books, like they kind of explain that like Aslan kind of made this realm for the kids to learn lessons and grow up, and once they were grown up, they couldn't return, right? And so I thought the trilogy had a really great progression of like you had the older two kids and the younger two kids, and by the end of the second movie, like the older two kids couldn't return. And then in the third movie, it focused like the main characters were the younger siblings, and then they also brought in Will Poulter as like their cousin, and I thought like he had such an amazing role in that, like definitely like really made me feel for that character. And I would have loved to see like a fourth movie that followed like him as the main character per se. And so I think if she treats it as that in a sense, then I think it'll succeed in my eyes. Like that trilogy really like nails it and finishes out like the four original siblings arc. And I don't know, I just feel like you would have to like really rewrite some stuff if you wanted to make it like this really great fantasy medieval kind of epic. I just don't know if like the first movie really nails that,
I don't know if it's gonna be like a fantasy epic, but I will say I can't always remember how like the fight scene went down between like the White Witch and like Aslan and all the like there was like a big fight. There's the potential to make something like that pretty epic. But
agreed. I guess like the first one, I just remember, funny enough, like not loving the trilogy until like I finished the trilogy, and then I was like, oh, I get it. It's not supposed to be like a really great fantasy story. It's something else,
Yeah, I guess I never thought of it as like something to be like a great fantasy story. I always kind of thought of it the way that the first movie was just like. And I personally don't think she'll probably take it into that like really super fan. I think it's going to be like very much it's a lesson being
I really
learned.
hope that's how she goes for it. Yeah.
I think that's how it'll go. And yeah, I can't say much because I don't know very much, but I think it's exciting. I think she could do some really cool things with it. And if she does 2 movies and they hand it off to somebody else, like more hopefully they are of quality that they'll keep going.
But that's just surprising. Like I would assume she would want to finish out, like I said, like, all the kids that you meet in the first movie finish their arc by the end of the third movie. I would assume you'd want to finish out all those characters that you are writing for at the moment, and maybe she'll change her mind. But yeah, I think there's a huge
crazy
chance
for her to only for her to keep directing Narnia movies for like 2 decades.
But what if? Well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, just do 3 and then be done. Like you don't got to do like 6 Narnia movies. But it would be wild, and I think she does need to like go on to like her own original stuff at some point. But yeah, I would hope, and I do think there's a pretty big chance you're right that like another director coming in would not be able to match like what she's doing. But we'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.